Hello everyone! Time for a January wrap-up. How many books did I read in January? Tell me, journal. I read 9. I was hoping to make it to 10, but 9 is still pretty damn good. The first book I read in January was The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin. This is the second book in the Broken Earth trilogy, so the first one is the 5th season. And I like the 5th season a lot more than this one. I still gave this 4 stars because I still really find this a really interesting, intriguing story. But this does feel like a bit of a bridge for the finale. So it didn't feel like a lot happened and I was kind of confused, but there was also some really good stuff going on in there. And I need to know. I'd say the strongest element in this book would be the world building. It's like the world is the coolest part of this. And my favourite character, which is Nassim. I read The Gracie and I just kind of heard of this. I don't really know what the vibe was, but this is just like, I want to say like it's a dystopian, really puritanical society where they're convinced that girls have magic and boo, we hate that. So when they turn 16, they get sent off on their grace year to get all their magic out of their system and they can come back and get married. And it's a bit of a conspiracy of whether they have magic or if it's a placebo effect / if it's just men trying to control women, because there isn't actually any proof or evidence that they are actually creating anything magical. So it'll be the kind of thing when one of the girls is like, oh, something happened, and she'll just take credit, like, yeah, that was me. Or there's a girl being like, yeah, I just made the sun go down. That was me, guys. There's a romance in here because there has to be. There are also these hunters who want to kill them and like chop them up into tiny pieces because there's this belief that if you consume their like flesh, that you consume their like power and you'll like live forever and it'll make you healthy, and it's really gross. But yeah, so overall I really liked this. I feel like it could have gone deeper, and the ending felt a bit like love heals all, and I was a bit like, I don't know, man. So I gave this a 3 stars because I was like, I liked it, but it didn't have anything extra about it that made me go, this is the best thing ever. But it was like really easy to read and I really enjoyed it. So 3 stars. I'd say the strongest element would be the themes and the political resonance. It's just like the vibe I'm going with in my thing. Sometimes I don't know what to write about a book, so I'm like, I'm writing strongest element, fave character. I think my fave character was our leading lady, but like they all kind of sucked. Like there wasn't anyone that I was like, you are the MVP. You and Me on Vacation by Emily Henry. This was a very highly anticipated book for me because I read her other book, Beach Read, and I really enjoyed it. And unfortunately, I didn't like this as much as Beach Read. Like this is still good and fun, but what I've been struggling with lately is really finding momentum with a book where I just kind of focus on one book and read nothing else. So I think that hindered my reading experience because I was reading other things at the same time. But this is just like a friends to lovers romance thing. And I think it was just the pacing for this. Like it is slow burn. So it's satisfying in the end when they finally get together. But the switching timelines and them just trying to work through their stuff was like a little bit frustrating at times. But also there's lots of like funny moments in here. So I enjoyed that. And I was a little disappointed that there wasn't more Croatia in here because I kind of went into it thinking that was going to be a relatively big part, and then it wasn't. So this was 4 stars because I was like, it was still enjoyable. I think it's just hard to top Beach Read because I really, really, really liked that one. I'd say my favourite character was Poppy, our leading lady. She was lots of fun. Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This is like an adult sci-fi dystopian, and I was disappointed with this book. Like I see the potential, but it just felt like half-baked. But I also know that it's a series, so I do want to continue and see what I think. Just because we kind of have like 3 segments of the story. So we kind of start in one place, then we flip the script and things are revealed. And we kind of open up the world a bit. And then we're like in this school setting, military school setting for the most of this book. And that section of it I didn't like, and it just felt very removed from the rest of the story. And it was just very like whirlwind. I was finding it hard to keep track of like who people were and what exactly was happening. But it almost felt like a Lord of the Flies kind of vibe. And I just wish that there had been more within that part of the story. So this was 3 stars again. Like, I liked it, but I'm like, it wasn't amazing, and I was really wanting to like this a lot. So I'd say the strongest element for this would be the world and the social commentary. I hope we see more of the world in the next book. But I think my favourite character in this was Severo or Roke. Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and this was like the best book I've read so far. So 5 stars. I've read 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Daisy Jones and the Six, and so it was just natural to pick this one up. And they're all kind of linked with a character, so they're kind of companion novels, but I wouldn't say you need to read them in any particular order. But there is just like little Easter eggs. And this is just a story about the children of this big rock star family and love and loss. And there's not an awful lot of plot in here, but we really get into the history of this family and the trauma they have and why they are the way they are. And it was just really satisfying. And it's hard because even the bad characters, like, you see why they are the way they are. I don't think that excuses it, but it explains it. And I just felt very like poetic how it wrapped up. This was it gave me lots of feels. It was very like compulsively readable, just like her other books. It's really fast. And so we do get a dual timeline of the parents kind of meeting, getting married, and then later when the kids are all grown up. And I just loved learning about it. And it was good. This was 5 stars. Please read it. The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. So this has been making the rounds on the social media as like must read. And I must say, I don't think it's as good as people make it out to be, but it's still pretty good. So this is just a romance between like some scientists and it's fake dating. And I feel like the pacing could have been a bit faster, but it was fun to see their banter and their bond grow. And I just really wanted to give Ali Hazelwood a shout out for how she handled the sex scene, because it was more realistic to me, where it wasn't just like fireworks and everything goes smoothly. It's kind of like working with her, and just that meant a lot to me. I actually got really emotional reading a sex scene. I've never cried reading a sex scene before, but it was just having that representation of someone struggling sexually, but then having someone be patient enough and kind enough to work through that with them. And I was just like, thank you, Ellie. You did good. This got a 4-star from me. I'd say the strongest element would be the chemistry. The chemistry between the characters. I really enjoyed seeing them like bring out the best in each other once they got through their mini obstacles. And my favourite character was Olive. But I must say the guy is very dreamy, because he is the grumpy of the grumpy sunshine. I'm like, I am the sunshine, so I'm gonna like the sunshine characters. Normal People by Sally Rooney. And this was mainly out of curiosity, because I'd heard a lot of people say like, oh, it's crap, don't read it. And I read the whole thing in like 2 days because I just found it so readable. And I have really mixed feelings about Normal People, because I totally understand what people are critiquing, where they're like, it doesn't have full development. But I think that's kind of the point. Like, I think this book is more metaphorical than literal, where it's just these 2 people really struggling to connect with each other but needing each other. So it's not like satisfying, there's not heaps of development, but it felt realistic. And the ending I thought was really beautiful, where they'd finally kind of found each other, but then it was the whole kind of like, if you love them, let them go, because you know what's best for them and you'll always be there. And so, yeah. This book was kind of odd, but also like, I have to really applaud that it's not like anything I've read before, and that I did just really consume this book, even though there's not a lot of plot and it's just these 2 people struggling in their lives. I was just like, I must read this. So I'd say the strongest element would just be the theme of it, of people struggling to connect and finding their way in the world. And my favourite character was Lorraine, which was the guy's mum. Can't remember his name, because she was just the voice of reason and very much like, you done goofed, son. The next one was an audiobook. So I read Green Lights by Matthew Mcconaughey, which is his memoir that he himself narrates. So if you read this, I highly, highly recommend the audiobook, just because his like twang and his like added kind of hoo-hoos and ha-has really just make it really fun. This was just a really fun one where it just had lots of funny anecdotes, but also like some life wisdom in there. And it just was really comforting and I really enjoyed it. So I gave it 4 stars. And the last book I read in January was The Stylisty by Erin Morgenstern. So I was a bit late to this one because it was a Citadel pick, but I was really glad to finally get to it because I've had it for quite a long time. This is a magical realism. I gave it 4 stars because it didn't feel like it had total impact on me. And I don't know if this like style of story is like my vibe, but I really appreciate it for what it is. So this, similar to Normal People, but like next level, this book is more just like a whole metaphor. You can't literally read this book. So I'd say the strongest element was whimsy. My favourite character was Mirabelle. And I'd say like, it felt like slow and scattered, but also beautiful, and how things linked up. And the way it ended was really beautiful, where the whole thing is like we have this character that's looking for this Stylisty, this magical place, and he kind of gets there too late where it's not in its heyday anymore. And there's danger of this place being gone forever. And so it's kind of that whole push and pull of wanting to like read or enjoy a story, but not wanting to finish it because you don't want it to be over. And then about how stories are interconnected and how they need to end so new ones can begin. So I thought that was really beautiful. I think this would be a really good one to reread to catch all the connections, because some of them, they would be like a reveal, like, oh, it's really this person, but I'd already kind of forgotten what was said about them in particular for that to make complete sense. If you really didn't like The Night Circus, I don't know if you'll enjoy this, but I'd still give it a go. It's quite big. But yeah, and obviously I tabbed it, so I liked it enough to do that. Be brave, she says. Be bold, be loud. Never change for anyone but yourself. Any soul worth their star stuff will take the whole package as is and however it grows. Don't waste your time on anyone who doesn't believe you when you tell them how you feel. So that's what I read. My favourite book was by far Malibu Rising. The worst one, maybe Red Rising or Obelisk Gate, just because they were a bit disappointing and I was expecting a bit more. But yeah, that's what I read, guys. Let's see what happens next month. I am currently reading Truly Devious, The Stone Sky, and Finlay Donovan Knocks 'Em Dead. So look out for those and others in my next wrap-up. Bye, guys!